Hi guys, welcome back to The Baseline. Thank you so much for joining me. Hope you guys are all having a great day, great night, great life. So all of this, it started quietly. I mean, no headlines, no alarms, just a line in a government document that said the Netherlands was taking control of a chip company called Nexperia. Now, this is a move they said was to protect national security. But within days of all this, that single decision sent shockwaves across Europe. I mean, it rattled global supply chains and revealed something far more dangerous than a semiconductor shortage. And what it revealed is the myth that any nation can be truly independent in a global economy. Nexperia made the small, reliable chips that power cars and everyday electronics. It wasn't flashy like NVIDIA or TSMC, but it was the kind of company modern life quietly depends on. Now, a few years ago, it was bought by a Chinese firm called Wingtech. And at the time, no one even really blinked at it. Globalization was still the religion of growth, but now, with rising tensions between China and the West, every link in that global chain looks like a potential weapon. So, the Netherlands stepped in. And what did they say? They said, hey, look, we can't risk letting a foreign government control something this strategic. And on paper, that sounds reasonable enough. But every country wants to secure its tech base, its supply lines, its future, right? But here's where reality crashes into the script. Because by seizing Nexperia's European operations, the Netherlands triggered the very thing it feared the most: retaliation. Reports suggest China halted the flow of chips produced in its factories. And suddenly, European automakers, Volkswagen, Mercedes, Bosch, were holding emergency meetings. So the same chips that kept their vehicles running stopped shipping. Production lines that were already stretched, and they were stretched thin, started to stall. So within a week, analysts warned that Europe's car manufacturing could face massive shutdowns if the standoff continued. Now, think about that, because in trying to protect supply, they inadvertently strangled it. And that's the paradox of our age, right? Every act of protection now carries the seeds of collapse. Governments call it sovereignty, economists call it decoupling, but the truth is simpler. Because when the system is interconnected, pulling one thread can unravel the entire fabric. So for 30 years, the West built a world where efficiency mattered more than independence. Factories moved to China, logistics flowed through Asia, and supply chains became global arteries of prosperity. And then, almost overnight, the same countries that championed open trade started talking about walls and bans and security screenings. You can't unbake that cake. You can't move 3 decades of manufacturing back home by passing a few emergency laws. So it would be like trying to change the engine while flying at 35,000 feet. Or like telling the heart to beat without the blood. It would be very difficult, right? The Netherlands might control the company's name and lawyers, but the factories, the actual lifeblood of production, are still in China. And without them, Europe holds nothing but paperwork and a sneaking sense of panic. So China, on the other hand, holds the means of production and the ultimate leverage. Beijing didn't need to issue threats. All it had to do was pause shipments. And then the message, it became crystal clear. The world supply chain doesn't run through Western confidence. It runs through cooperation. You can't sanction that. You can't seize it. And here's where the illusion ends up falling apart. It breaks because the West likes to believe it's decoupling for safety. But what it's really doing is discovering how dependent it's actually become. Now, the Netherlands say it's defending sovereignty. Fair enough, right? Washington says it's countering influence. Beijing says it's being attacked. But the pattern is the same. Everyone calls it strategy, and everyone ends up paying for the fallout. So what looks like a geopolitical chess match is really a global version of tug of war, except the rope is our economy. Now, each pulls strings and the thread that holds everyday life together. I mean, we're talking about cars, phones, energy grids, everything that runs on a microchip. And here's the thing. Uncertainty is good business for the powerful. Every crisis opens the door for billion-dollar subsidies, defense contracts, and corporate consolidation. Now, when fear grows, budgets grow with it. The machine keeps feeding itself one emergency at a time. Now, reports indicate that this chip standoff could ripple beyond Europe, hitting American manufacturers who rely on the very same suppliers. That means this isn't just a Dutch or Chinese problem. It's a global one. And it raises a question no one in power really wants to answer, which is what happens when every country starts confiscating what it no longer trusts. Because the deeper you look, the clearer all this becomes. This isn't just a trade war. It's a nervous breakdown inside globalization itself. Every nation wants control, but no one can truly afford it. You can't wall off the world without shrinking inside those walls. And the real divide isn't East versus West. It's between those who can still believe, right? Between those who still believe we can cooperate and those who profit from keeping us apart. The same way fear once justified wars is now justifying economic isolation. And if the pattern holds, the next security move will look less like protection and more like self-harm. So what's the lesson here? Maybe it's that interdependence isn't weakness. It's a form of peace. The more our economies rely on each other, the harder it is to destroy one another. But if we keep cutting the wires that connect us, eventually the lights go out for everyone. All right, guys, what do you think? Do I have this all right? Do I have it all wrong? Put it in the comment section below. I read all your comments and I value your opinion. Thank you guys so much for watching The Baseline, and we'll catch you the next round. All right, cheers, everybody.